Hey guys, this angle's really bad, but I'm gonna deal with what I have. So, I'm just gonna give you guys a trigger warning too, because this video is going to be talking about mental illness, suicide, overdosing, drugs, and psych wards. So, if you feel like that may negatively affect you, then please don't watch this. We don't want anybody getting upset, or your mental health is important. So, basically, I have been in a psych ward one time until now. I've been dealing with mental illness my entire life. I got diagnosed with OCD when I was like 6 or 7. That's the first thing that ever came to light, because I wouldn't wear clothes when I was a kid. Like, I'd go to school, and as soon as I got home, I'd rip my clothes off. Like, clothing is my number one issue when it comes to my sensory OCD. But so recently, like a week and a half ago, so I saw my doctor, a psychiatrist, and she prescribed me a couple new medications. One wasn't new, she just upped the dose. So I woke up Thursday morning and I was not feeling good at all. I felt like shit. So I called out of work, and then I was like, I want to go to sleep, but I have severe insomnia. So, like, once I'm up, there's no going back to bed naturally. So I had not Visceral. I had Lamictal, 100 milligrams of Lamictal. And I was like, I can just take 3 of these and I'll be okay, and I'll be able to go to sleep. It'll help me sleep, probably. Just so you know, never take more medication than you're prescribed. I'm bad with that. Not being able to sleep makes me go a little insane. Like, if I don't sleep for 3 days, I start hallucinating. And like, basically in the auditory hallucinations. But I took the 3, and another one of my issues is that I'll get like out of it, and not really realize what I'm doing, and I'll end up taking more pills. And it's not on purpose. It's not a suicide attempt. It's just wanting to sleep. So I took the 3, and literally I don't remember much after that. I remember my mom coming home and like shaking me and like hitting, like slapping my face and stuff, because I was fucked up. I ended up taking, I think, 22 Lamictal. Because I got out of it, took more. I don't remember doing that. And I wasn't able to talk. Like, I was slurring my words. I could barely get any words out. And I ended up actually convulsing because of the medication overdose. So my mom called 911, and they took me to the hospital. And I was actually transferred from one hospital to another because we have like little mini ERs, and then we have actual hospitals. So they took me to like a little ER, and then they ended up taking me to another hospital in the ICU. And they were barely giving me anything to calm me down. I was very upset. I was very anxious. I don't recall a lot. I don't really actually recall what got me in the psych ward. The OD was not what took me to the psych ward, because they understood that it was an accident and it wasn't on purpose. Even though it took me a very long time to be able to talk and explain to them what happened. My dad's fucking livid still that it happened, and he won't pay for any medical bills that I did to myself. Like, if I overdose and I go to the hospital, he won't pay for it. But if I got in a car accident or I had to have another bone surgery, he'd pay for it. So that's annoying because I don't have money. So I don't like being in hospitals. Even when I had my bone surgeries, I wanted to be out of there. as soon as possible. Like, I wanted to get out. And so they weren't giving me anything to calm me down, and they gave me Ativan a couple times via IV. So it got to a point where my mom had left to go home, and I was there alone. My dad had left too. So I was there alone. My mom had to go home to get something and then come back. And we're only about 10 minutes from the hospital, but she took a while. So I was getting really fucking annoyed and really fucking pissed. And I ended up taking my IV out myself and trying to get out of the hospital. And they called security on me. And they got me back in the bed. And then I got even more pissed. And I basically fought the security guards to try and get out of the hospital. Because I was like, how the fuck can they keep me here? If you guys aren't sending me to a psych ward, how the fuck can you keep me here? So, last time I was in a hospital, for an overdose, they let me leave. They kept me there for about 2 days, and then they discharged me. I was waiting for the nurses to come finish everything, and they took I was waiting 4 hours before I decided I'm taking my IV out and I'm leaving. And that time I actually took my IV out like you should. Like, I had a piece of cotton, and I took it out and waited for it to stop bleeding. This time I was so livid and so mad that I didn't care. I was bleeding all over the floor. And I ended up getting handcuffed to the bed because I was so mad. And also, they weren't giving me my medication because I overdosed, so they weren't going to put any more medication in my system than they needed to. So I was more upset. And I don't do violent stuff. I'm not a very violent person. I'll fight anybody, though. I don't really fight people. I haven't fought people. I fought my sister once, and I won. But other than that, I'm not very violent. I get very anxious around fights and stuff. So that just tells everybody how fucked up I was. And how, mentally I was screwed. So they ended up... the psychiatrist didn't want me to go. But the social worker wanted me to go. So the social worker ended up saying she has to go to a psych ward. That hospital actually has its own psych unit, but there were no beds. And apparently I said that I wanted to go everywhere but the place I was at last time, because I was severely mistreated last time. And my friends in the hospital were crying over it and flipping out on the nurses because they were treating me like shit. Everybody else was getting treated better. So, the only place that had a bed around the area I was at was in Petersburg, Virginia. That's an hour and a half away from my house. So, I was TDO'd, so the cops took me there, and they discharged me from the hospital and made me stay there. And it took 5 hours for the cops to get there to take me to the hospital, and then an hour and a half to get to the hospital. So, my dad actually ended up calling the hospital and bitching, freaking the fuck out on these hospital workers because it took them 5 hours to get me out of there. And so I got to psych wards. If it was a very small unit, it was a lot different than last time I was in a hospital. Last time I was in a hospital, after you got cleared by the judge, if you were TDO, or after your doctor cleared you, they'd walk you down to the cafeteria, and you could pick whatever food you wanted. It was a lot more lenient. So this hospital, drawstrings are usually not allowed in hospitals at all because you can could hang yourself and shit. But they wouldn't let you have a hood at all, which I thought was really fucking weird. You couldn't have a hood. So my boyfriend's jacket that I brought with me because actually when my boyfriend got there to the hospital, I actually calmed down a lot. I was pretty calm after he got there, so he gave me his jacket. I was I really want it. So I took his jacket with me, and they wouldn't let me have it because it had a hood on it. So I was there for 6 days because I got there Friday, and then I left the next Thursday. But I was in the hospital for a week, technically, because I overdosed on Thursday. And I didn't get to see the judge, because when you're TDO, you have to go see a judge at the actual hospital, and then they tell you, like your social worker, your caseworker, and your doctor all have, like, an input on what the judge says. And he said that I had to stay for the maximum of 7 more days. So I saw the judge Monday, and I got out Wednesday, so I stayed there for 2 more days. But I was in there with a lot of older people, and a lot of them were drug addicts. And a lot of people, and this one girl that thought I was an IV user because I had so many bruises and stuff from the IVs I had in and all the stuff they did. But they basically took me off of the medicine I OD'd on Lamictal, which was actually helping me a lot. If you saw my last mental health vlog, I was saying, like, I'm feeling good. And then I went and did that, so people are kind of questioning whether or not I was actually feeling okay. But I just went to sleep. So, they wouldn't give me the Abilify either. I was just prescribed Abilify, even though I didn't really want to take it, because Abilify is really known for weight gain. My doctor was like, Seroquel and Abilify really work well together. So she gave me 5 milligrams of Abilify. And I don't even know where that bottle is in my house. I can't find it. So what I was on in the hospital was, at first they only had me on 600 milligrams of Seroquel XR because they didn't want to straight give me the 800, even though I've been taking 800 for like a month. And they were giving Paxil 10 milligrams, my Ambien, my gabapentin, 600 milligrams 3 times a day. And they put me back on Visceral for anxiety. I don't think Visceral does anything. Last time I was in the hospital, they gave me Visceral because they try to avoid using benzos or anything addictive. So Visceral really does not help me. I'm still taking it to try and see if it'll try and help me a little bit, but it doesn't do anything for me. It's just an antihistamine. It's very similar to Benadryl. So I was there. For the first day, I just spent sleeping. Second day, I actually started talking to people and being more okay. I was mad I was there, and I was mad that during my court hearing, I was like, if you guys want me to be here for longer than Thursday, I want to get transferred to the hospital I was at before, because that hospital is only 45 minutes away from my house. And the lady on the phone, they had some social worker on the phone. I think it was a social worker that sent me to the hospital because the psychiatrist didn't want me there. A social worker did. She was like, the judge said, yeah, we'll transfer her. He was like, yeah, there's no issue. If they have a bed, we'll get you there if you have to stay that long. And the lady on the phone was like, just so you know, we're not going to transfer her. And I was fucking pissed. And then I talked to my caseworker, and she was like, it doesn't matter I don't even know, she was like, I don't even know who the hell that was, but if the judge says you can get moved, you can get moved. Because some fucking social worker does not have the right over a fucking judge. So it was pretty fine. There was a lot of Army kids there. And from my understanding, what I always thought was that if you had a mental illness or you freaked out when you were in the military, they kicked you out. Like, you weren't supposed to be in there. Like, one of my friends, ex-friends, her ex slept walk during boot camp, and they kicked him out. They just straight kicked him out of the, I think it was Coast Guard boot camp, or Navy or something like that. I don't remember. It was water. It wasn't Army. So my roommate was an Army girl, and all she did was sleep during the day. She slept all day. Because there was a front unit and a back unit. The front unit was mainly for the Army kids, so she'd go out and do groups in the Army section. But it got to a point where she stopped going up front. And for the first couple of days, she slept all day and all night. And then it got to a point where they gave her books to read, and she would sit in the room till like 3 o'clock in the morning with the fucking lights on, reading books. And I was getting pissed because I couldn't fucking sleep with all those lights on. One time I was in there before she got in there, and she just went out to the other room to read, and I'm sitting there thinking, why the fuck doesn't she do that every night? But I was fine. I was doing pretty well. I was still pretty manic. I was pretty hyper, and stuff because I didn't have the visceral. All they had me on was a Seroquel, and it helps. It does help, but I get the high manic. I don't really get the lows of the manic, and I'd much rather be manic, like high manic, than like depressed and like freaking out and angry. So Tuesday night, this guy came in. He reminded me. It was eerie how much this kid reminded me of my ex's twin brother. And this guy, he was not only was he sagging his pants, his underwear didn't stay up. So we kept getting flashed. So me and my friend in there, we just kept, whenever he got up, we just like look at each other because we were getting sick of fucking getting flashed. So my friend, the friend I was talking to, she's a very like conservative Christian girl. So she asked one of the nurses, was like, can you tell him to pull his pants up? And he got fucking pissed when the nurse said that. And he's like, it's not gonna stay up because I don't have my shoes. And I'm like, if you wear the right size pants and underwear that fit you, you would have to wear shoes for them to stay up. This kid was fucking crazy. Like, he talked to himself, and he didn't make any sense. And so that same night when he was there, after he got told to pull his pants up, he like was throwing the lids to his food, like the salad that came with like a lid, and like the soup came with a lid, and he was like throwing them. And I don't know about you, but men that I don't know that are strangers to me, when they get angry, it makes me very scared. Because I was in a very abusive relationship, and that's from my ex with a twin. But, so, one of the techs there was a gay, bigger black guy. He was really nice, a really nice guy. And, he walked up, the crazy guy walked out the room and called him a faggot hole. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And that's one of the reasons why he reminded me so much of him, because my ex's, twin would use the word faggot a lot. And he never used it, like, to really call somebody gay. He just used it as a term because he thought, like, it would offend somebody. But this guy was using it because he was gay. So, the next morning at, like, 6 o'clock, I woke up to this guy. He was flipping shit. He was, like, saying the N-word, like, hard R. He was calling everybody a faggot. He was saying Mother Teresa was a whore. He was calling, like, women sluts. And, like, that's one reason why I knew my Seroquel was working. Because those kind of, like, that kind of language, when you're using it to offend somebody, like, I've used the term faggot before, but it wasn't, like, I would never call somebody gay a faggot. I'd be like, have you ever seen Louis C.K.'s version on faggot? Like, he didn't call somebody a faggot because they're gay. He called somebody a faggot because they're being a faggot. I don't use that term anymore. I have before, when I thought I was big and bad, but I never used it to offend somebody who was gay or lesbian or like transgender or anything, because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a different sexual preference or whatever. So he woke up, he was screaming, and I stayed in my bed. The one reason why, like, again, I know the medicine was working somewhat is because I didn't get out that bed, and I didn't flip shit on him, and also I didn't want to have to stay in the hospital longer, so that also helped me not flip shit. So he ended up, I stayed in my room. Some people were already out of their rooms, and he was like slamming chairs down. And the nurses, this is what everyone told me happened. The nurses, they were like, you either take these pills or we give you a shot. Because he was flipping shit. So they ended up giving him the pills and he just knocked the fuck out. They put him in the quiet room. So he got out of the quiet room. And then around 11 o'clock that same day, this girl, she looked like she had Down syndrome, because, Down syndrome has that kind of, like, look to it, but she also could have just been autistic and had that weird look to her, but she had a learning disorder. She told us that she had a disorder like that. She just never said if it was whatever it was. So she really wanted a stress ball. That was her thing. She had been to this hospital multiple times, and they knew she wanted a stress ball. And she had one that she brought with her, but it had a little metal piece in it, so they wouldn't give it to her. So she wanted a stress ball, and they wouldn't give it to her. So she took the ball out of one of the roller deodorants and was like playing with it to calm down. And they got pissed that she took it out, and they got pissed that she had it. So the fact that they were pissed made her mad, and she was throwing shit. And she was freaking out, and she was doing all this shit. Neither of these people had to fight security guards. The next person fought security guards. So they gave her a shot, and she passed out. And she stayed in the quiet room basically till, like, the next day. She just wanted to stay in there. And then they asked her if she wanted to leave, and she started freaking out again, like, this is my room, blah, blah, blah. So she was mad. You could tell by the way she was talking and stuff, she was pretty angry. I was awake when she got mad. I was at the room when she was mad about like, this is my room, all that kind of shit. So then the next day, that night, my roommate was reading with the lights on again. I was real pissed, and there was an empty room. So I went out and I asked them. I was like, "Can I sleep in a different room? My roommate has lights on. I don't want to tell her not to read." So they were like, "We can't give you a different room, but." There were 2 quiet rooms. She's like, "You can go sleep in the quiet room. We're not going to keep you in there if you want to leave." Like, she was like, "You can go sleep in there if you want." So they told me I had to go get my sheets and stuff. So I brought him in there and I slept in there. And that was the best night. That was the best night's sleep I had in the hospital. But at 6 o'clock the next morning, never fails. This new guy who came in the night before started flipping shit that morning. He was fighting the security guards, and he kept saying, "Everybody in here is half autistic and retarded." And I was sitting there thinking, I was sitting in that room, I was like, y'all do realize people who have autism are usually really fucking smart. So calling somebody retarded who has autism is kind of weird. So that guy was really fucking stupid. He was flipping out. He was fighting the cops. They gave him 3 of those shots to calm him down until he passed out. After the second shot, they ended up getting him into the quiet room. And I was like, so the quiet room, there was one here, and then there was like a hallway, there was another one. And my door was open in the quiet room, so I saw all this happening. And he ended up trying to get in the room where I was, and they had to lock me in the room because he was trying to get at me. And he ended up, like, taking the bed frame that was in the other quiet room and throwing it and, like, ripping it apart. And they had to take the bed frame out, put a mattress on the floor, and give him another shot. And then later that day, I heard them talking about he ripped his stitches out. He had a very large gash on his wrist. I guess that's how he got there. And he ripped his stitches out, or staples, or something, whatever it was. So I sat there. And that was the day I was getting out. Thursday, the morning he did that was the day I was getting out. They told me that I'd be out by 12. And then they started discharging people who weren't supposed to get out before me. And my mom was already on the way because they told me on Wednesday I'd get out at 12. And the next morning, they told me, yeah, you're getting out by 12. So my mom was already on the way. She got off work early and everything. And so after I was in there waiting to get discharged, about the time I was going to leave, my mom was like 40 minutes close, so I was like, oh, I was going to be here in like 30 minutes, where's my stuff? They started my stuff, and I was standing around the nurse's station waiting for everything to be done. And this kid that came in the night before also, who seemed pretty normal to me, he didn't seem like he was one of the crazy people there, and he was actually one of the younger people there. Most people there weren't around my age. They were a lot older. And, like, last time I was in the hospital, I was in there with a lot of 18-year-olds, so it was really weird being in a hospital with a bunch of, like, 40, 50-year-olds. And the guy who seemed really normal, all of a sudden I heard banging. He was fucking slamming his head against the fucking door, the fucking walls, and he was sitting there saying that he wanted to sign himself out before he started doing that shit. I'm like, that's not how you get out of here. No. And then he was like shaking, and one of the nurses was like, what's wrong? He's like, are you hearing things? Are you seeing things? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, what? And he was like, I'm seeing demons. Like, are they telling you to hurt yourself? And he was like, yeah. So he ended up calming himself down. He ended up being a little bit better. But I know for a fact he did not get out of that hospital that day. And then another guy, he's a really old guy, probably like 60 or 70. He was getting pissed because they wanted him to sign something to get discharged, and he didn't want to sign it. And so many people had freaked out in the past 2 days. They were like, just let him fucking go, walk him out. He can go. So that happened. So basically, 5 people freaked out in 2 days. And when I was at the other hospital, nobody had a freak out at all. The only thing that happened when I was in there was they had a couple people from the detox ward down on our floor because the detox floor was full. And, like, the only thing that happened was the guy was, like, detoxing, and he was, like, puking in the night, and he was, like, falling asleep in his food. So, basically, a bunch of people freaked out, and now I've been very paranoid about loud noises, because it's very scary when you're stuck in a unit with a bunch of crazy people, when you don't need to be there. Like, seeing people like that makes me realize I'm not really that fucking crazy. What I did to get there was pretty crazy, but that was more of a kind of an effect of the OD and all the medication in my system. Because I don't ever do that kind of shit. So now I've been having pretty bad paranoia with loud noises. I feel like I'm going to have PTSD from that. Because I'm very scared of men freaking out. And most of them were men except for the one. And I think the crazy guy that reminded me of my ex liked me because he kept trying to talk to me, and I was the only person he tried to talk to, but he didn't make any fucking sense at all. He, like, one time he looked at me and said, your hair looked like Smurf, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I was, like, nice to him, and I kept asking people when we got salad, because they kept giving me Italian. I was like, does anybody have ranch they don't want to do? Can we switch? Every single time he had a salad and ranch, he tried to give it to me, so I feel like he liked me. Then I got out, and then the first thing my dad did was fucking bitch at me, and then I started freaking out at home because my dad was bitching at me. And, like, they just told me I'm not allowed to drive because it's not my car, and they still pay for my insurance. And driving's the one thing that calms me down. Being able to drive and listen to my music calms me down a lot. So basically, that's what happened. That is my psych ward stay story. Yeah, it was pretty rough. I was fine in there. As soon as I got home, my dad started being a dick, and I started freaking out. So that's it. Yeah. Let me know if you guys have similar experiences. Bye.